Hello, welcome to week 4 of Beginning Networking 1. We're going to kind of go over what we're going to do this week and a couple of the highlights out of the book that I'm going to try to expand on a bit here. So, what we're doing is reading Chapter 3, Networking Components, doing a lab, configuring Ethernet networking, Part 2 for 20 points. And then these are the Professor Messer videos to watch. And we're going to do a small research paper. Nothing big, just I want to get you thinking about technology, and a good way to do that is to write about it. So you're going to have topics for research, and this is just a suggested list that I have, but you can write about whatever you want as long as it has to do with the class and networking, basically. So just some of the examples that I have would be what I have on the sheet here. So like network design, implementing redundancy, and managing multi-cast traffic, switch selections, how to choose the right products, and just different things like that. So if you don't see anything on this list that you're interested in, feel free to write about one that you are. So we'll go ahead and shut that down. And then what we're going to do is you're going to write just a small paper, brief discussion on the technology, like what it is, what it's used for, and so forth, what you learned about researching this. And then I want you to find careers where that technology is used and kind of specify like maybe some pay ranges, types of jobs, companies that hire that, and that'll get you thinking about like your career in this field. So I like you to start forward thinking about your career and how this class that you're doing now is going to benefit you in the future. Okay, so for from the book, what I like to do is I like to kind of roll through this 2 minute drill because this has all the things that really kind of stand out. So we're going to have the 2 minute drill, the network interface cards. We're going to talk about those a little bit, the hubs and repeaters, mostly switches, and then routers and multi-layer switches, and then gateways, security devices, and cloud computing, and other networking devices. We'll focus more on this CSU, DSU, and T1s, T3s. And then you have your self test, so make sure you're going through those and working on those. Okay, so first of all, it talks about the interface card. So an interface card is just a NIC card, is what it stands for. Network interface card is a card you plug into your computer basically, and it allows you to get on a network. Here you can see that there's an RJ45 connection, and this is a wireless connection. And you could have configuration with both. But this is just how you connect to the network, and I imagine everybody's kind of familiar with that at some point in their life, probably done that, plugged a computer in or something. Okay, so big thing with network adapters, which is what the NICs are basically. So they have software, and you have to make sure that you have the right drivers. So drivers are just the software that run they just run the network card and let it interface with the computer. So if I pull up my device manager, then what I can do is I can go in and look at my driver. So I want to scroll down here to network adapters, and you can see I have a lot of stuff going on here. But anyways, if you like right click on it, you can see where there's update, disable, and so forth. And then you can look at the properties, and here it tells me that the device is working properly. It gives me driver details. I can update. Here's the details, and then I can see any events. So if I'm having problems with, getting on the network, I could get in and start looking at the different events, which is like logs, and see if there's been any problems. And so while we're in here, you can kind of look at everything. You can be careful in here, but if you have biometrics, Bluetooth, your cameras, the mic computer here. So if we look at the properties of that. It's not going to give us much there. So, but anyways, you can go through and almost all this stuff is going to have drivers in it. And if you're having problems with drivers, that's kind of what you want to look at. Okay, next is transceivers. So if we go back and we look at the NIC, you can see where it has a plug that is going to be able to take the RJ45. So the transceivers are going to usually just be built in on the boards, and they look like this. A transceiver basically just can communicate with the board and the network is basically what that's doing for us. And then you can see other ones. So like here you have some fiber optics, and so they're using the transceiver to plug into the switch there and so forth. So you can see different kinds, but basically for now what we're talking about is the ones built in on the NIC cards. Okay, so hubs and repeaters. So a hub is a dumb device. You just plug all your computers into it or whatever you're using, and there's no routing or switching or anything like that. It just broadcasts to all devices. There's all kinds of hubs and repeaters. A repeater is just a bit different. Let me pull up a repeater real quick. Okay, so what a repeater is going to do is for signal attenuation, you would plug your devices into the repeater, and then out the other side, you would have more cable. And basically what it does is it just extends your reach and rebuilds the signal. And that way you can continue to communicate further away. They have wireless and wired ones. So basically on the repeater, you would plug one cable in here, one cable in here. So this would be the where you're kind of losing your signal. You've reached the max, so you put a repeater there. The repeater rebuilds the signal and retransmits it out, and then you can run your cable further. The hub, just a dumb device that runs the broadcast to everything connected to it. Okay, routers. So this is a good example of a router. You would see this in a telco room. Think of this as the front door to the company. This is the electronic front door. You would plug your T1 into your router, and your router would manage all the traffic coming in and out of your LAN, your network. Okay, switches. So think of switches as departments. So this is like HR, manufacturing. They would all have one of these basically. Sales, advertising, they'd all have a switch. Think of a switch as a department. So all the computers and engineering would plug into this, and that keeps the network kind of segmented, because you wouldn't want people from sales to be able to look at HR's files and see how much money people were making and stuff. That would cause a lot of problems. So switches are a good way to kind of connect all your computers for each department and then segregate them, so people only have access to what they're supposed to. Next thing is VLAN. So if you have a small company, you might only need one switch. Suppose you only had this many people in HR and this many people in engineering, and this was sales, and this was advertising, and this is manufacturing, and these are the people that work in the store or whatever. So you can, through software, assign those ports to be like their own switch. So basically you could take these ports here and assign those as a VLAN, and they would be cells. And then this one would be engineering, and this one would be manufacturing. And you can do that through managing a managed switch, where you have software, and then you can go into the VLAN, and then you can assign which ports you want to be on each VLAN. So it's kind of like having a bunch of switches, but you only have one. There's another picture of the software. So your gateways. So a default gateway is what's the router is going to determine this. So whatever the default gateway of the router is, all the computers on the network have to have that default gateway in order to utilize the router. And I have this already kind of pre-done for us. So I did an IP config all, and then you can go through and you can see where the default gateway is. So mine right now is at 0.0.0.0, and that's because I run through a VPN. Where did that go? So let's see. All right, there's too much stuff here. Let's just start over. So IP config/all, and it tells us a whole bunch about our computers. So it shows the computer name, and down here, let's see, connection. Right here is my VPN. So my McAfee VPN, it hides my information from the internet. That way I'm not tracked in so much stuff. So my default gateway is going to look like 0.0.0.0, so they can't track me back to my router. But anyways, this is where you would be able to find your default gateway, your subnet mask, and so forth, to set up your router. Well, you went. This is how you'd set up other computers and switches on the network, because this would already be in the router, so you would use it to see what numbers you're using. It also has MAC addresses in here as well. So my physical address would be my MAC address. This is a number that's programmed into the machine, your computer at manufacturing. And then you can see if you're using IPv6 and what your IPv4 would be, and this shows me I'm using DHCP, and I obtained my lease for my IP address at this time on this date, and my lease expires on Monday, and then I'll get another one. So, anyways, a lot of stuff in here that you can see. You can see I'm running a DHCP server, and I see some information about that. My DNS servers. I'm running NetBIOS over TCP/IP, and that's one of the ports I think we'll be talking about later as we get into learning all your port numbers and so forth. So, anyways, you can see a lot of information in here, and this is where you would get, like I said, how you'd get your default gateway, your DNS server numbers, and all that stuff that you might have to know. Okay, so your router would sit right in here in a rack in like your telco room, and then you'd have your master switch plugged in, and then this switch runs all these cables out to the different departments and to their switches. And on the next picture, I think, let's see. So this is what your typical telco room would look like with your switches and your routers getting set up. And that's a UPS there to provide power. And what I want to show you though is the T1 cards. Okay, so these are like T1 cards, and this is what the telephone company owns these, and you lease these off of the telephone company. And this T1 is what plugs into your router to give you access to the internet. So you definitely will see those out out there when you're working. Definitely, you'll see those. So let me see if I can get one better picture of that. Okay, so here's a good example of where they're having their T1 cards. And let's see here. And this is a pretty typical example of how a telco room would look. And you would have, this is also including phones. So you could probably count on having to work on phone systems as well if you're in IT. So that's a lot of the phone systems there. And here's a simpler version of it. So basically, you have your router right here, and then on the wall over here somewhere, you'd have your telco cards. And here's a good example. So these are telco cards, and this is what would be connecting to your router. And this is owned by the telecommunications company like Sprint, AT&T, or whoever. And this provides you access to getting on the internet. Okay. So repeaters and hubs. A hub is a dumb device. You just plug multiple devices into it, and there's no routing, switching, or anything like that. It just broadcasts to everybody. A repeater is a device that's used for attenuation. So signals only travel so far. So if you needed to go further, you can put in a repeater, and you plug one cable in here and then the other cable here, and inside here it regenerates the signal, makes it stronger, and sends it back out. Oh yeah, there's your repeater and hub again. And then in the labs, so I just wanted to talk about the labs for a minute. Uh, right here, you can see like the table of contents. As you complete your labs, you can just send a print screen of this, or you can send a print screen of actually completing your lab, whatever one you've done. So either way, it doesn't really matter, just as long as that you're getting some learning done out of this and that it's helping you out. Okay, so I think that brings us to a close for today. And what I would like to do is on week 5, I would like to hold a uh, question and answer session live. So I'll go ahead and I'll post the Zoom link to that, and everybody's welcome to come. Not a requirement, but if you have questions, you're having trouble, or you just want to talk about networking and stuff, we'll do a open Q&A, and I'll get that posted for you on here real soon. Okay, other than that, I hope everybody has a great week. And if you need anything, reach out to me and let me know. Thanks.